So today we're going to be talking about the labeling theory. So a little bit background information about the labeling theory is that it was constructed in the early 60s by Becker, Erikson, Kitsus, Prus, and Gross. It's actually a version of symbolic interactionism, and symbolic interactionism has two central ideas. So idea number one is that deviance is actually a collective action involving more than one person, and it's an interaction rather than just one person committing an action. The second idea is that it focuses on the word symbolic, and it's also an interaction between the supposed deviant versus conformists. So the overall message of symbolic interactionism is that it's not a static entity, but it's actually a dynamic process. So this theory actually asks two important questions. So the first question is, who applies the label to whom? And second, what are the consequences of being labeled and for the labeler? So to answer the first question, who applies the label to whom? So the people who usually apply the label are those who represent forces of law and order. So for example, police, judges, guards, and people generally who have a higher social standing. And those who are labeled are people who commit devious acts such as criminals, drug addicts, mental patients, and juvenile delinquents. So to answer the second question, what are the consequences? So for the labeled, it's usually a negative consequence. That label actually becomes embedded in their mind, which makes them continue on with their deviant acts. They feel like they need to live up to their title. There are actually two types of deviant acts. So one is called primary. So primary is basically a matter of value conflict. This basically means that they do not agree on what is considered deviant. So say for example, one person might think that stealing is a deviant act, whereas another person might think that it is not. And the second type is secondary. This basically evaluates how it goes from primary to secondary. A person sees themselves as a deviant in society, going back to that idea of a continuous spiral. So what are the consequences for the labeler? It's usually positive. It gives them an enhanced social order, and it also clarifies the difference between good and evil. It also gives them a sense of feeling of right versus wrong and makes them feel like they have a higher social standing than those people who are committing those deviant acts. So evaluating the labeling theory. So many people have accepted this theory and many have also criticized it for many reasons. The positive outcome of this theory is that it signifies the labeling of human interaction, and it explains a two-part process, and it also explains the effect of labeling on both parts. So the first flaw is that many have said that, oh, it doesn't answer the question what causes deviance. But this is not really valid because the theory is not meant to answer this. This actually focuses on secondary deviance, so how a person goes from primary to secondary deviance. Flaw number two, people say that they fail to produce consistent evidence. The assumption that the label itself leads to further deviant behavior. Can this be actually proven? Well, some studies have supported this. Labeling can actually lead to further deviance, but many studies have not proven this as yet. And the third and last flaw is that the theory cannot logically deal with hidden deviance, powerful deviance, and unknown labels. So basically what this means is that powerful people also commit deviant acts to a certain extent, but this cannot be proven just because logically they are a higher social standing and they usually do the labeling, so they cannot commit deviant acts. So overall, the labeling theory may not answer all the questions that people wanted to, but it evaluates the interactions aspect, and it also explains label and the effect of labeling, how labeled versus labelers. So the overlying idea is that the label deviant enhances and encourages a person to continue to be a deviant.